Welcome back to Terp Trends, and today we're diving into the world of extractions with a truly inspirational guest. Abe Crowe is the director of extractions here in Pennsylvania. Having brought his extensive expertise from Illinois to our state, Abe is not just passionate about hydrocarbons, he's a visionary when it comes to designing labs that really push the boundaries inside those walls. In this episode, we'll explore his journey, his hands-on role in creating state-of-the-art labs, and his innovative techniques shaping the future of the PA industry. This is Terp Trends. Let's dive in.
My name's Abraham Crowe. My history is I have been involved with cannabis literally all my life. My parents are hippies, so I was playing with cannabis seeds as a baby in a rattle. But you know, my father actually cried when I entered the cannabis industry. He was so proud of me. He was very happy to see one of our family actually be able to turn this into a career.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, I actually ended up starting at GTI in Rock Island in Illinois. This was when they were still new. They were probably about 3 or 4 years old. Um, I jumped in there as a supervisor. No, I'll scratch that. My apology. I jumped in there as an extraction tech, and I learned very quickly how all of that went.
Yeah.
My background is a stagehand doing a lot of theatrical and lights and all of that. I had a lot of mechanical background, a lot of background working with gases and stuff like that for scenes. So I was able to just move on in there and work with CO2 and all the hydrocarbons and all that stuff very easily.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
so cool. That's a wild transition. I never saw that one coming before.
yeah. I was a journeyman stagehand for about 20 years. I was in the industry. Um, my mother and father was also stagehands. Again, it was just a family thing. But it was a good transition, as a matter of fact, because it just came at the right time where um, the industry was slowing down a lot in our area,
Yeah.
and GTI just happened to be hiring at that moment. And my friend looked at me and said, "You know what? You'd be really good for this job." And I was like, it's such a cut and pay because I was going down from 36 bucks an hour and it was going down to $15 an hour, right?
Oh, yeah.
But just the love of cannabis alone, I took the risk, went through the struggle, dug my
Yep.
way up. Luckily, I worked my butt off there. They really enjoyed the work I did, and they made me supervisor of their second shift, and that's really when I started to learn at GTI. I was on my own, and they literally had me learn how to do every single aspect of extraction to production.
Oh,
So I
wow.
helped make all of their food. This is when they were first started getting incredible brands in. They were still using the Mary's products. We were just starting to formulate pressed pills. And they still back then had these things called Eddie's Betties, which
Yeah.
another company that is out of Boston, incredible friend of mine, and they have now have their own run of dispensaries and companies of their own. But we made nighttime chews and infused taffies with them. And I just really soaked in as much information as I could from every aspect of where the harvest started, every part of the cultivations, step by step needs. That's where I learned the most important step. And everybody knows this, but when you start out, you don't. Fire in, fire out, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is also back when their Girl Scout cookie hit over 30% for the first time.
Oh,
So
wow.
we had the opportunity to work with some amazing flower at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So that's pretty cool. So even before that, growing up, so you're around cannabis your whole life, and then you're going into a lab which is dealing with oils and extracts, which maybe isn't as common as it was growing up cannabis then as it is now. So did you have any experience with dabbling in any type of oils before you jumped into the laboratory?
Yeah, I was one of those open blasting guys.
Yeah, man, me too. Nice.
Yep. You know, the glass jar, freeze your butane, freeze your flour,
Yeah,
freeze your jar, get it all out, get it as fast as you can into an open
yep,
container. Used a little um, griddles, electric griddles in front of a
yep.
fan in front of the window.
Yep, yep. I remember I was reminiscing with a buddy the other day from like our university days, and we were talking about the one day I had like 6 or 7 of us in a dorm, and I just learned blasting, and then I go and I'm like giving a little introduction to all my friends in a dorm, trying to like show them everything. And the other day we were thinking about that. We were like, dude, that was so insane. And then not like, we didn't really understand purging and everything like that yet. And it's man, has it come such a long way. So that's awesome to the Open Blast Club, dude.
Yeah, a little fun rookie mistake when I first started out. I was doing this in my kitchen, and I was doing it in front of the window. The front window actually happened to be, knee height. It's one of those half-size windows. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a little table set up with a fan, so everything was blowing out. Well, one of my huskies came in,
Oh
and so
yeah.
I just, not thinking, I just quickly moved the container full of the butane, off to the
Yeah.
side to shoo my dog out. Well, next thing I know, I heard this woof. I set it on the stove with with open pilots. So I turned around, you got flames up to the ceiling.
Yep,
I just
yep.
opened up the oven, put it in, closed the oven, just walked away.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
like, well, that one's done for the day.
Good
So
thinking though. Quick thinking
yeah,
on that, because someone
yeah,
would look to throw it or try to dispose it, but cut it off immediately.
yeah.
And
Well, your oven's actually built to take a fire and all that in those very high heats. So I knew
yeah,
that, and
yeah.
I just put it in there. My wife wasn't very happy about that, but
No. Uh,
save the house, ruin the stove.
yeah, yeah. So we learned from that mistake, and now here we are in
Absolutely.
a professional lab, and now you can kind of get cooking. So that's really cool. So what was that like jumping into it? Obviously the price deduction, I think, is one thing just to emphasize real quick that a lot of people face coming into cannabis that I don't think a lot of people also understand. The people that survive in this really take some cuts, and it's really where you show your passion come through. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people are coming from different careers, and now they're jumping into one that isn't as financially stable as you would think it would be in the beginning.
Right. And it's a little harder now because it's not just financially stable, but its market's not stable either because there's so many more here.
Yeah.
So, but it was overwhelming to be honest. I didn't understand when I first started all the things you could do with cannabis. I knew
Mm-hmm.
you could extract it the ways I was playing with it at home, everything else we were doing with parents, cooking, stuff like that. But when you started finding out with CO2 extraction, um, then distillation, short path,
Yes.
all the different forms of distillation, all the different types of units you can use for distillate, um, then just every aspect moving up through there, getting used to working with 300 to 400 pounds of liquid propane and butane sitting next to you, or getting it
De-
spilled on you, or
Definitely sounds intimidating.
absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where when you first go in, you have all these ideas of what the possibilities are, but then you realize you were so narrow-minded. And
Yeah.
when I realized that, that's when my love for the extraction part of this really sparked. Um,
Yeah.
my learning took off much faster than GTI was ready to handle. Um,
Mhm.
I had an amazing person above me, Jake Ludval. He's actually gotten much higher in the company now. I believe I might be wrong about this, but he is in charge of all extraction
That's awesome.
training for all of the company now. He's an amazing
Yeah.
gentleman.
Shout out
Cody,
Jake, man.
yeah, shout out to Jake and shout out to Cody.
Yeah.
He's still there too. I believe he's still at GTI and might have even taken up the supervisor or extraction manager role.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool to hear.
right, everyone out there is growing. So as I started moving forward, I did end up leaving on my own terms,
Yeah.
mostly because I felt at a certain point I was doing all production and I stopped advancing my knowledge, right?
I
So
gotcha.
I was knocking things out. I was doing everything they wanted, but at a certain point my brain said, "Now you're in this rut. Do you want to continue here and work in this path in this company, or do you want to take your knowledge and try and take the next step somewhere else?
Hmm.
So that's when I left GTI and went to work for Ingrown Farms in Illinois. Um,
Nice.
and they were another privately owned at the time when I went and worked for them. They were very small. They worked out of something about the size of a garage, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like your bathrooms, two bathrooms that you'd have at your house was our grow space. You know, we had a very small closet for the extraction, but not too soon after I worked there, they were purchased by Acreage Holdings.
Wow.
So, big, big
Yep.
conglomerate.
Yep.
So we had that influx, and that was my first opportunity to help build out my own extraction lab.
Oh, sweet.
Right. So, with the assistance of their director of extraction, I went step by step, worked pretty much a month straight without a day off, 14 hours a day, going through the plans, all the equipment, making sure that it was ready to go, working with the construction crews to get that all in place. And then after the end of that, I had a much greater understanding of the lab, how it works, everything that needs to go into it. And then that's also where, of course, that sparked my interest in learning. Okay, so now that I've understand how all of this works, how can I take everything I knew and the industry does now with my understanding of how all of this machinery works, and how can I take it to the next level?
Yeah.
How can I move forward with it? How can I help this entire industry advance, not just for the patients, but for the companies as well,
Man,
through
you're really putting it on
efficiency
your
and
back,
quality?
huh?
Well, I kind of hope that everybody that gets into this has these ideas. You know, it's
Yes.
not like I feel like I'm going to revolutionize everything, but I am definitely hoping to be a part of that puzzle that does.
Yeah. Or contribute to it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So my head's going in a million ways on like what it takes to designing a lab, and I'm picturing like a lot of stainless steel, a lot of equipment and stuff like that. And I know it's going to be hard to kind of get a short description of it, but what really goes into designing the lab
Well,
or a lab,
it all
What's
comes,
things that people would look for or want, put it that way.
well, first off, it's based on the regulations of the state and then the needs of the company. And then when you look at that, you're going to start looking at building out your room for to fit the lab. So if you're doing, depending on the extraction doing, ethanol, CO2, water extraction, hydrocarbon extraction, that lab has to be built to fit that. So some of them require like ethanol and hydrocarbon require a C1D1 certification. So you're going to have a booth set up with proper ventilation. And then you have to move past that part of just extracting the flour and now to build everything you need to process it. And that's where the stainless steel and all the hand
Yep.
blown glass and the scientific glass come in, because then you're looking at equipment like a rotary evaporator, and that's what we use
Yeah.
to remove the ethanol or hexane or pentane from the oil that we're processing. Then you have Buckner funnels, you have um, the short path comes as a one style unit that can be pieced together, but then they
Yep.
have other forms of distillation just like that, where you have a BR spinning path, you have POF distillation. So you really have to, one, narrow it down on what your company needs, how to future proof the lab, so that way you're not
Yeah.
spending a lot of money just trying to upgrade it from where you're at now. And then also have a section of it always off to the side and have a great agreement with the company you're building it for R&D, be it new products, how your processes are running just to test, or even the equipment that you purchase from different suppliers, be it carts, disposables, jars. You always want to test this before you go out to your patient with these products, because
Oh yeah.
what you get from them is one thing, but like especially here in Pennsylvania, we're required to send it in and have it tested at a lab anyways per regulations. And excuse me, usually what you get back isn't always equal to what they give you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so many avenues because the way I'm looking at like the company I worked for in Colorado, they were a really big vertically grown company. And when I went into their first processing center that I was allowed to be into, Um, like it was overwhelming. Each new room had a different way to extract. There was a solventless room, distillate room, then there's the loop systems in a different room, then they have washing in a different room. And I was just like, that's when I all the doors opened, no pun intended, and I like saw how big this plant really is and like where it can go and how many different avenues. So when you were building this lab out for your for it when acreage came in, what were they building for then?
We were jumping right into an 80,000 square foot grow with 26 grow rooms. So this was built to do starting at 100 pounds, moving up to 300 pounds a day. Um, we started at one shift, moved into two shifts. We were working nonstop um, if not extracting it, we were also packing it. So we ended up having a really cool system that we came up with walk-in freezers where everything that came down, it didn't matter if it was even cured, it went straight into a vacuum bag right into our freezers. We had a crew that would put on the cold outfit, pack all of our socks, do all of our breaking, everything that had to do to process that flour before the extraction would happen inside the cold room.
Wow.
And then everything would move past there. So we started right with hydrocarbon extraction. We were planning on doing carts and edibles. They planned out a four-room kitchen for um, your dry goods and your wet cooking goods and everything
Hmm.
being separated in between that has to be by regulation again in FDA. So this was quite a large facility. As a matter of fact, um, GTI left was I think I could be wrong, but I remember it was like 66,000 square feet. But they
Yeah.
were just adding another huge section to it that was jumping up another 60,000 square feet to them as I was leaving.
Wow.
So they were expanding greatly. But when I moved into this one was already larger than where I was at. So it was quite the experience. I never really ever saw the entire building every day. It's one of those things, you know. Every once in a while, you had to walk down to, a football on field half away to get some kind of deal with your water. But for the most part, we had our own little section uh, cut off. One of the other benefits of being able to start your lab from scratch that I learned at this point was the safety of the entire crew and the rest of the building.
Mm.
One of the things that was drilled into me by Zachy, who used to be a director of extraction at Acreage, was the idea of always having your extraction on the outside of the building.
Okay.
You never want to build it in the inside of the building, and it was basically the idea of if you hold a firecracker in your hand open, or if
Yeah.
you have. So we would actually went as far as building blast windows. So if there was ever any kind of event in the extraction rooms that had that ability to have an explosive property, that all of the force would be forced out of the building instead of back in towards the employees and the rest of the equipment and keeping
Wow.
the building and the people safe. Um, the building that I'm in now didn't work out so well. So
Yeah. Wow. That's great. And do you think that's a common practice? I guess that's not a common practice then.
no, it's not. And I didn't know that either. I thought, well, okay, that makes sense, you know. So everywhere I go, labs should be built this way. Um, GTI was built on an outside wall. We did at Ingrown Farms, but when I came to the location I'm at now at Parea, I had a lot of work ahead of me. So it wasn't really the person that was there before me that designed this, but they had actually reached out to a college that was having um, their own education system going, and
Okay.
uh, they were looking into the best way to do this, and they had them help this. And they built a very clean lab, but the issue is they built it in the middle of the building. And so for running all of your exhaust systems, everything for your HVAC, um, all the other like fire safety, it made it extremely expensive to retrofit the lab to upgrade it to fit regulations than if it was just done right
Mm.
the first time.
Oh, I got you. I got you. And I wonder, well, I guess it's just a learning process, and until you've kind of been through the scenario like you were before to understand all that, I don't think your average or new lab tech would maybe think of that. I
No,
wouldn't even think of that, you know?
yeah, and until I was, of course, taught through the industry and learning and working with amazing people, I didn't know that either. So it's one of those
Yeah,
things where if there is anyone out there planning on building a lab, think about the safety of the entire building, not just the crew in the lab.
yeah, yeah. I wonder if it's even, or what it would be, how hard it would be to just build your lab, like extended off your building, you know, or
I,
not a part of your, but you always do want everything close to home. So you're rocking in Illinois. How long were you with that before something happened and you made the jump to come more east?
well, I was with Ingrown for about 2.5, almost 3 years. Uh, so, and the only thing that happened there was just a disagreement with management that was there above
Hmm.
me.
Yeah, I
So,
understand that very well.
right. Um, I have, and at that point, had certain expectations for the quality of my products,
Yeah.
um, and how I wanted the patients to receive my products. And when you start getting into these larger corporations, they start losing sight of the patient in a way of their health and safety versus their pocketbook.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that their products are bad, but the innovation towards making a better product and continually growing the process usually stagnates for profit.
Yeah.
So that's why I usually try to find smaller grows, privately owned ones, usually because they have uh, more of a leniency for what they're going to allow you to do. Uh, you know, you're always going to make that product as needed. But sometimes having all of your focus towards that and not focusing towards, you know, something that could help the patients, like the new RSOs that we've been making, um, you lose track of what the patient really needs versus what you're just trying to give them. And when I go to the dispensary, I don't want to have to choose from what's there and be like, okay, I'll take that. I want to go to the dispensary and say, I know this, this, and this worked for me. I need these, and that's what I want. Um, we have a Karma OG that a patient uses. Um, that helps with her Parkinson's. So when she knows that she needs this to help her, she knows exactly where to come for it. She buys ounces at a time, she goes and she comes back. So that's the kind of aspect I want for the patients that are truly looking for the medical help from marijuana is I know exactly the product I need to help the ailment that I'm trying to treat. And that gets lost. We give you pills, we give you troches, we give you all of this, but in the end, which one of those are helping you? Which one of those are designed for you? Um, is it truly doing anything for you? So that's where I'm trying to push this side of the industry too. Is they're finding out flavonoids are helping people. They're
Hmm.
finding out that the terpenes are have a much larger effect than just the cannabinoids themselves. And I think we should just continue down this road of researching and creating and developing these products and trying to really dive deeper into this plant because it's so much more than just THC and THCA or CBD.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's what you just talked about there, the one patient that really works well and comes in and buys the specific strain. What strain was that?
Our Karma OG.
And so there was another breeder that I was listening to, Power Social Media, and he was kind of talking about how his mom or someone close to him has really bad like problems with her lungs. So say it could be like an asthma or something like that. There's this one specific CBD strain that opened up her cardios like so well where she was breathing better again. And he's now searching again for that one strain, but he was like, that's the problem with these things that we need to dial in more is when we have something that is helping somebody, we need to like collect that and preserve it and keep going. And that's kind of what you're saying, because it's like now that patient finally has access to a medicine that's helping them. And unfortunately, when it comes to cannabis, we don't have all the regulations and the things we need behind us to maybe keep that on the shelves, and everything like that. And then that might also come into the corporate side where maybe what if they don't want that strain anymore? And now you have to fight against that. We're like, well, these people, they need it. It's
Right.
not just what they want. This lady literally needs it to help her get a better fulfillment out of her life, which is important to us to then listen to that and be able to give her that.
Absolutely. And I think also that would help us, especially in PA, is if they would open up the regs to allow us to work with more colleges than just ones with medical programs. There are pharmaceutical colleges out there with labs that this product can be sent to them. We can send them these samples and we can tell them what it's doing to these patients. They can create like questionnaires to ask the patient what it is and how it's helping, and we can try and break down this plant now and figure out what it is or what the combination was in this plant that's actually working for this patient,
Mhm.
and then on top of that, we can turn around and then, you know, focus on, you know, developing those flowers or those plants to show these characteristics more often and develop it directly to treat these people. And I know there's growers out there that are amazing and can literally tell and make their plants how they want. That's not my field. I
Yeah.
never really got into the cultivation side. I grew a little bit, but like some of these cultivators that I've got to talk to, including the one that I've worked with, are so far beyond my knowledge on and how they can manipulate the plant in the way they want. It's amazing, and it's the benefit of extractor, and it's our blessing to have people like that to work with because they give you a better product to do your research and your development and make your products out of.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I'll just give the shout out myself. That's Mr. Patrick, man. Shout out
Yes,
Patrick.
Patrick Sprout, man.
Great,
He's a good
great
guy.
man. Great man. Yeah. That's that's wild and that's cool. So now you're coming into it and what was it like transitioning to PA? So you're kind of you had that disagreement and now you're uprooting. Now you're moving for the plant, because did you grow up in Illinois? Is that where you're originally from, that area?
I've moved all over, but I was living in Illinois for quite some time at that time, so it was definitely home.
Yeah.
Um, the moving, believe it or not, for me wasn't the hard part. It was the restarting. Um,
Yeah.
Getting here and getting the home and getting that together wasn't as hard as getting the business off the ground.
Got it.
On this time, I walked into a position where I wasn't starting from scratch. I was working or trying to build with off something someone else had already worked with. So again, it was a new challenge, a new learning experience. Um, so uh, it ended up being, uh, let's see, I have to say, in the end, it was actually quite enjoyable
Yeah.
because I got to experience things I never thought I'd experience on a build. Um, So, especially with uh, the specialized type of HVAC I had to work with and the engineers I had to work with to get what we needed. Um, I'll just bring it out. It's a little technical, but I'll try and keep it simple. We needed a certain airflow per minute to make sure that the C1D1 regulations fit. But because of how far into the building they had built the
The lab.
lab, we had to increase the size of our HVAC. That's where that huge cost came from to
Makes
meet
sense.
that standard.
Yeah.
And just the development of that, the engineering of that, to figure out how to recirculate our air. We don't bring in outside air or any
Okay.
outside particulates into our lab. So all of our lab is fed by one HVAC system on a filtered system, and then our booth and all the rest of that is bringing the air from that and recirculating it back into the air through a secondary filtration.
Oh
So,
yeah. That's a
yeah,
little engineering for you.
right. So, and then
Yeah.
that way, all of the air in our lab um, is actually drawn out by the C1D1 room while it is running. So that way, not only that, but the air that's going into your C1D room is also controlled. So
Wow.
a lot of times I've seen labs where they intake outside air and just
Yes.
blow it right back out for your exhaust. But then you're dealing with weather, humidity,
Particulates.
cold,
Hmm.
right? So we were able to design this one to intake the air directly from the processing lab and our other two um, infusion areas of the lab, and it was still enough to feed the booth. So our extraction techs are extremely comfortable. They're not in there freezing,
Good.
sweating, or just dying trying
Yeah.
to do their job.
Yeah.
So,
That's good. Well, I know the cold room's a given with certain extraction, but the sweating would definitely
right.
would not be fun. I would rather be cold than hot any day of the time.
Yeah, you'd say that until you work in a room that's 55 all year round, no matter what the temperature is outside, and that's
Yeah.
where ours is at. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. So you're messing with all these different methods throughout the years. Is there anyone that you felt you more refined or feel more at home doing, or a machine you feel more at home using?
Right. So I've been lucky enough to use quite a few extraction machines and did all types of the forms. I've done ethanol, CO2, and uh, hydrocarbon. I've dabbled with water, but haven't gotten as far into it as some.
Hmm.
But I'd say I have to say BHO is definitely my favorite because of how I have control over what it is, the cleanliness I can get it. Um, I know there's going to be some hash people out there that are going to kind of not like me saying this, but if hydrocarbon extraction is done correctly, it is the cleanest, safest form of extraction. And why I say this,
Hot
why I
take.
say, yep, hot take,
I
and
love
why I
this
say this
one.
is because our COAs can equal out to 99%. So when we send our product out to our labs here to test. When you send something out to a lab to test, they only have so many samples of the products that the state requires them to test from.
Hmm.
So when you see a product that's 72% THC or total cannabinoids, and then it's maybe 5% terpenes,
Yeah.
that only adds up to like, 82%, something like that. So
Yeah.
oh, 77%. My math is fucking way off. But
No, that's fine.
that leaves you having to ask if that is all the lab can test for, what is in there that they didn't test for? Yes, it's safe.
Mm,
But if I add up every aspect of that certificate of analysis from the lab, how much of that is unknown? So when you can put BHO and hash up together,
yeah.
hash will never be 100%. And that's not a bad thing because the fact that you just don't refine it, you can't refine it the way you can. Now, the flavor, the hydrosols, the flavonoids that are available, and hands down will always taste better than BHO. I will
Yeah.
agree with you there. But when it comes to cleanliness and safety, and if you're looking at someone who's dealing with fighting lung cancer and do not need any kind of carcinogens that can still be available in hash, you can remove them completely from BHO. You can do different forms of extraction and then different forms of processing to ensure that there's no fats, no lipids, no hydrosols, nothing miscible with water in your oil again. Separate all of the terpenes out, make sure that the oil is completely as clean as you can, and then just put the terpenes back in and give it to them in a cart or in their RSO or the form that they need to guarantee that that COA is as close to 100% as you can see. You can guarantee there's no ethanol, you can guarantee there's no butane, you can guarantee there's no any other gases through these tests. So as long as you're ND, which means non-detectable across the board for any kind
Hmm.
of solvents, and your rest of your COA adds up to 100, you now have a completely clean product that you can call medically safe.
I like your take on that, sir.
But I still
The
love
language on that makes
smoking
complete sense
hash.
when you label that. The language on it makes complete sense.
Yeah, yeah. So
You know.
and I will never compare the two on which one's better or funner to smoke. Everyone has their
Oh
um,
yeah.
own take on that because I'll
Yeah.
smoke it all. I love all of it. But when you're looking at really trying to delve into medical or pharmaceutical grades, you have to go with hydrocarbon extraction versus water extraction.
Yeah. Well, I think the chances for more particulates and just contamination in the water extraction, as much as we don't want to admit it, are still always going to be there. You know,
Absolutely.
like the science is there to prove that. It's not
Hmm.
a heady language or against the religion for me to say that at all
Yeah,
against the hash god, but like the science for that is there. So yeah, in a complete medicinal sense, honestly, I think cannabis should be consumed and not inhaled, and I've always said that to people, especially in the dispensary when I was in them working with the patients, and people would look at me like insane when I'd say that. But I mean, if we're thinking on the true medicinal value to our body, it would make more sense to consume it than to treat it as an inhalant, in my opinion.
absolutely. And what we have to look at as extractors and producers of any of these products is every aspect. So you're 100% right. But then you have to think of when you do intake it, your liver transforms it into another cannabinoid,
Yes.
right? You have this whole other process going on. Then there's other ways of doing it where you can do it with um, suppositories, so
Yep.
you can bypass the liver. And so if you need to do that, so that's still an internal intake. RSOs are a great internal intake where you can do both, where you can actually, if you develop your RSO correctly, you can have a larger majority of it absorbed through the membrane and the linings through your mouth and your stomach as it's being absorbed in the body, then pass through the liver. And then you can
Yeah.
actually get kind of the best of both worlds on that
Yeah.
too.
So that's a great. I was gonna say this transition, but since we're already on that topic and you just said the three-letter word, the RSO, the recording I had before this was with a gentleman, Seth, from the company, the Control Limited company, and they came out with that RSO dosing device that I believe Parea teamed up, or at least was helping them with, and released it with them. And he was really hyping up the RSO that was being developed with Parea. Um, this episode is brought to you by Waddle, the world's fastest and easiest way to review and track your medicinal cannabis products. Waddle offers batch specific reviews, so you'll know what to stash or what to trash. It's exclusively available for Pennsylvania medical cannabis patients. Waddle helps you take the guesswork out of your cannabis journey and ensures transparency with the verified product tracking. Download Waddle now on iOS or Android. That's WODL, and take control of your cannabis experience today. What can you dig a little? Can you dig into that? Because he said like the texture's
Absolutely.
different. It's more fast acting. And he had a couple more things. The bioavailability, I think, is more bioavailable. So I believe the brains behind that would be maybe you.
Yes. Yes, it is. So, believe it or not, I've been developing this for a while. I've been having to do a lot of the research on the side. Like I said, I was trying to do a lot of this research before under Ingrown Farms, but never was really given the time or the chance to. But one of the first things I did before I restarted the research here is I reached out to the um, PAMMJ website,
Okay.
and I literally asked the patients, what would you like to see in an RSO?
Yeah.
Um, what would you want as an RSO? What kind of, if there were, type of terpenes would you like to have in RSO? And the feedback I got was something much easier to use, something I don't have to heat. Another one was something about everyone was looking for like camping and immersing.
Yeah.
So that was the focus for our first RSO, was directly related to the feedback I got from the folks here in PA on what they would like to see in it.
Oh,
So
that's
what I
awesome.
went right. So the first step was, of course, making sure that again that product is as clean as possible.
Yeah, and real
So
quick before we get into it, maybe for someone that's just getting into this, they hear RSO and they don't even know what we're
uh,
referring to. So we're talking about Rick Simpson oil,
mhm.
right? And Abe, what are you using to extract this?
Right now I use hydrocarbon extraction. So I'm using a 70-30 mix of butane and propane.
Nice. And it's whole plant, right?
It's whole plant. So you'll have some stem, not a lot because there are negative side to having stem in there, but whatever's in the leaf. But there are going to be leaf and buds mixed together. So, and the part of that, the big reason for that is you want that full spectrum oil to start with. So,
Yeah. All right, sweet. Now that we get it, so there you go. For my mom or my parents or anyone that's listening that love to learn these new things, that's what RSO is. So now go into what you're kind of working on and what you're developing.
right. So, what I wanted to do was make sure again that we had the cleanest product for everyone. So, I actually take and as soon as I'm done extracting the flour, I take the oil directly to my short path and I literally distill the terpenes out, every last one of them. I separate the terpenes completely from the oil, so that way from here on out, I have now preserved those in their state as it was as soon as extraction was finished. Um, I then take the oil and I go through three types of winterization and then a water separation. The first regular is a regular ethanol winterization where I just dilute it in ethanol and then I put it down to negative 60 degrees Celsius so that all the fats and any kind of hydrosols or anything water based will freeze while the oil will stay, you know, with the ethanol. So you pour that out, you filter it out. We can actually take those fats and process and put them to the side, and we're developing how to put those back into skin creams and stuff later. Um,
Sweet.
the big thing we want to do is, if we can, it's not always possible, but if we can, we want everything in our product to come from the cannabis plant itself. I am trying my best never to put anything into our patient's product that did not come from the plants in our house. So we do not purchase terpenes. We do not purchase anything along those lines. We don't purchase any outside cannabinoids or hemp cannabinoids right now. So all of those are developed inside of our house or isolated inside of our house. Um, so after the winterization step, we go into a secondary filtration just to make sure that that winterization worked and anything that could have passed through is done. And then we go through and do hexane separation, which is just basically you remove all of the ethanol from the oil and then you basically redilute the oil and hexane. You can use pentane as well. I know I'm getting a little more
No, no, I love
fluff
it.
here, but I'd rather our patients know what we're doing so it's full transparency.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
by doing this, it makes it lighter than water, so I can actually mix the two together. I can use the water to grab any other particles, any other fats, anything that made it through the original winterization, which a lot of people say there won't be, but there absolutely are. Um,
100%.
yeah, and then I can take and remove that, and then I send that out to be tested after I remove all the hexane for any solvents that may be remaining. Um,
Yeah.
I don't continue processing until it's ND across the board. So that means I am starting with clean product to begin with. And then that's where we start going into all the terpenes. We usually have a library of terpenes that we've distilled from all of the different plants that we've have in
Oh,
house.
that's so cool. A library of terpenes.
Right, right. So we have terpenes for the Karma OG, for the ICC Kush mints. I still have terpenes in there from our Thundercat that we used to have from a while back, and it's a very citrusy. So it's fun to hold on to these. And we
And
have
can you just
CLA.
refrigerate them? Or you freeze
Absolutely.
them or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because they will start evaporating off of like room temperature once you open them, right?
yes, they will. They will evaporate. That's why you can smell them. That's how
Yeah.
terpenes work in flowers and everything else. Um, but they can also degrade due to oxygen and light, just like
Mm.
cannabinoids can. So you need to keep them under a low vacuum if you can, in a sealed bottle, in a dark, cool place. So usually just a mini fridge and a lot of those little bottles where you can have those quick seals that just do a burp and you put them in there, and that keeps them clear. The longer they sit, the more they get exposed. They start to turn yellow, and it darkens your oil when you use them. But it doesn't change the flavor, but you can definitely tell that they're converting at that point.
Interesting.
So, And we'll go into another thing on CO2 terpenes after that because that's why I don't use CO2 terpenes. But
Yeah. Whole different taste.
a whole different taste. Actually, a good part of the terpenes are destroyed in the process of making them,
Yeah.
especially if the person running that uh, run for the terpenes is pushing it at way too high of a temperature.
Yeah.
Each, like everything else, I have a husky hair in my eye. I
Oh
apologize.
yeah.
But like everything, every strain is unique. So if you just take every strain and run it at the exact same extraction method you did the strain before, you're never going
Mm-mm.
to find the unique properties of that strain. And that works for every type of extraction. So you always want to have each version of your extraction with a notebook for every strain, set up what you find, adjusting variables there as you go. But that will give you, when you get to the level we are, where you're distilling your terpenes, you can go in and say, okay, I need more limonene out of this plant. So this time I have to throw some T41 into, my machine. So that way it'll start filtering out other terpenes I don't want at this moment because I'm going to be distilling it anyways. And that way I can isolate this terpene. Or other filter media that works in the same way. You can use, you can do it in line, you can do it out of line. Um, but back to where I was at,
Yeah.
with these
The
terpenes that we
tangents
have,
of terpenes.
yes, this is just the love of the
Oh,
industry
I
and
could do it
cannabis,
for days. Yes, yes.
So in that library, we have all of our COAs. We send them out for testing. We've worked very closely with all of the testing labs here too. They all test differently, so you get different results from every lab depending on the machinery, the age of their standards. So I had to work with their labs and the lab directors closely to get the results I wanted because I quickly found out when I started doing my work, we were the only ones to formulate terpenes to an exact amount in our product, and we knew exactly what our terpenes should be when they sent out to be tested. So when that
You're
test came back and didn't match what my expectations were, I'm on the phone with the lab director. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And they've all been amazing. They've all been wonderful. We were able to get things updated, get things situated with most of them, and getting the testing to where it should be. So, in a small way, I think we've helped Pennsylvania overall on terpenes and how they're tested at some of these labs that we've worked with because now the other people that use these labs will have the benefit of this upgraded
yeah.
process as well. Um, but I would take the COAs and basically look for the strains that have the highest myrcene, campheine, and limonene because those were the first requested terpenes by the uh,
The market here, the
right the marker
patients.
here.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Sorry. Thank you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so right off the bat, I'll let you know we put the terpenes into our RSO at about 20%.
Wow.
So the point of this is that it has to go into a process to rehomogenize the oil and the terpenes. You can just mix them, you can blend them like a lot of people do. Like carts, it's not a lot. They'll put them in the heater, they'll shake it up every once in a while, just make
Yeah.
sure it's done. That works for that.
Magnetic stirrer.
Right, magnetic stir works perfectly as well, but that doesn't break down the oil to small enough molecules for the terpenes to really
Bind back
slide
in
in
with it.
between, right?
Yeah.
Because we want them to be all sliding between, and that was the secret of our RSO is how we process and reintroduce the terpenes. That gave the ability of now with the higher terpenes, you have a lower viscosity. So now you don't have to heat your RSO, right?
Yes.
So my lab at 55 degrees, you can still easily push it out of the RSO, no
Yeah.
problem. That also with the higher viscosity means that you don't have this heavy clump sitting in your mouth, right? So with very low viscosity means that it takes more energy transfer from the heat and everything in your mouth to really get it to soften. So you're chewing on it, it gets stuck in your teeth. So by
the
increasing
the
the viscosity,
nightmares.
yes, yeah. I mean, Some people like taffy, but that's not the taffy you want to be chewing on for an hour, you
No,
know?
no. I remember people coming in the store like, Adam, you told me to put this little thing in my mouth and I'm chewing it and it's all in my teeth and it's disgusting and it tastes and I'm like, oh no.
Or the
You know,
nightmare
so
stories about crackers where now you're chewing on cracker bits for 5, 10
yes.
minutes because it's mixed into the
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah, or like going to the viscosity, they can't even get it out of the plunger because it's too hard or it's too cold. And then you have to tell people like, no, now you have to heat up water. And that's what the episode Seth and I really go into all of that trouble with the RSO. So that's so cool hearing it on your side, dealing with those R&D problems and really going at it to create this solution. Because man, was it a nightmare when the PA program first started, I'll tell you what.
And it's not just for PA, believe it or not. RSO's the same across the market.
Yeah,
We are the first to do it like this. So
awesome.
I'm hopefully not the last. Again, I'm not trying to change the market or be the lead of the market. I just want to be that small part that improves it all for our patients because I'm a patient as well. So I feel like everyone that goes into that dispensary is thinking the same way I do. I want the best bang for my buck,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure that it works for exactly what I need it for. And that's
Yeah.
another reason why we were able to, through our development, make it so uh, we don't have to charge more than $30 for our RSO because
Wow.
we've increased the efficiencies of my processing and reduced the cost across the board that the RSO can now just be given directly to them for $30, not with a deal, not with anything else. I mean, I think the next lowest cost that you would see is like $50 to $70 for the RSO
Yeah.
that we're seeing on the
Yeah.
market. So, and the big one is that I've literally had parents with kids that need this that are on chip, that are on public aid. They're like, how do they expect me to go get my kids other medicine
Yeah.
and then still spend $100 for a gram that's only going to last 2 weeks? You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and
It crushes your heart when you have to be on the front lines of that, man. It was really hard.
absolutely, absolutely. So the other part of this is too that this version of RSO now makes it easier for you to give it to your kid. Um, you don't have to heat it up and hide it in something, and if you do, it'll dissolve much quicker and easier, so you're not waiting as long to get that to your kid, especially if they're having an episode that they need this
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
That it'll interact with the membranes thanks to the entourage effect with the terpenes and how it's been um, thinned out, and everything literally dissolves in your mouth. Um, you put it in your mouth, you put it under your tongue, you can put it on top of your tongue. Within seconds, it just evaporates in your mouth. You have
Wow.
the aroma of the terpenes, so you have uh, the added effect of like a aromatherapy,
Yeah.
from the terpenes as well, because you will be tasting and smelling them for a while. Because again, we have them in there. We add the terpenes in at about 20%, but through processing and everything, you're always going to lose anywhere between 2.5 to 4.5% of those terpenes you added in. So we
Mm-hmm.
always want to add them high. So I think the first RSL came out at like a little over 17% terpenes.
Wow.
And then we had some people that literally said, I'm afraid of this. What is doing this many terpenes going to do to me because it's new to the industry?
Ah,
So,
yes.
right off the bat, the research is there. The GRAS report and FDA, right off, the FDA does not regulate the terpenes that you inhale. They only regulate the terpenes that you imbibe. And so all of our terpenes and all of our levels of each terpene fit FDA. And the GRAS for the amount of terpenes that you can inhale per hour is something like 14,000 parts per million of like pinene and stuff like that. So we're well below that as well. So we made sure to fit all the FDA regulations right here off the bat. DOH in Pennsylvania, unlike a lot, do require us to look at FDA standards when we are making products here. Illinois didn't require that,
Yeah.
so we were able to get away with a little more there. But I
PA's
kind of
pretty tight.
right, but I kind of appreciate it because it added that extra challenge on how can I get it closer to something that can now be considered
Medicinal.
a pharmaceutical standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that is clean, something that can be reproduced, something that can be given to not just adults but to children safely. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's remarkable.
and
I have to say, just from seeing it, I mean, what people don't understand is how quick you need a medicine in that type of solution, oral solution like that. And when parents have to get RSO into a cheek of a child that's going through a seizure or something, it's really coming down to how quick can that RSO or that product dissolve and get into my kind of like my bloodstream so that. Check out brownbagfarmgoods.com, an online seed bank that specializes in hash strains, landrace hybrids, and a wide variety of top breeders, including MTS Farms, Top Dog Seeds, Bloom Seed Co., and dozens more. Free shipping on all U.S. orders, and international shipping is available as well. Brown Bag Farm Goods. Grow the seeds that will grow you. Solving that issue of that time gap is a huge hurdle, I think, for the whole industry. So I applaud you, man. That's amazing.
It is. The big thing about everyone I love at the company I work at right now is that we truly love our jobs and we truly care about the patients.
Yeah.
That has been our focus. That has been Patrick's focus in making his flour and using his natural farming techniques.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
So, and we want to follow that all the way through. We don't want to start bringing in outside sources or outside chemicals to make our products. We want to be able to source everything from the cannabis plant.
Yeah.
So, the other great benefit of the new RSO is that um, it can go into anything and disappear quickly because the terpenes are basically considered the solvent to break it down. If you needed to put it into oatmeal or anything else, it would break down quickly. Now, it's not water soluble. It
Yeah.
is more bioavailable, but it is not water soluble. So if you did put it in tea, it would still float on top or anything that was water based. So I would suggest anyone that does get the chance to use it or need to use it, I would put it into, onto a piece of bread or even mix it into honey is actually a
Oh,
very
cool.
good way to administer that to children. Here in the future, one of the things that I've worked on in the past, and I want to again with the local um, hives that you have here in the state, is that I will develop infused honey and I will get it from different regions here, and then we'll try to sell it back and around this area so everyone can benefit from the natural antibiotics and benefits of honey on top of it being infused with the cannabinoids that you're looking for.
Oh,
So,
that's so cool. The power of honey is just remarkable. And then all the studies that I learned of people using cannabis pollen with the bees and the honey is really, really cool. So if there's a way to tie all that somehow in the future, I mean, that would be wonderful, man.
yeah, if I could find a hemp farmer that is
Yeah,
also has his own beehive, th- the I would love to get that tested. I've never
yeah.
actually had the chance to get my hands on actual honey made from cannabis of any sort or hemp, and I
I
wouldn't
haven't
mind
either.
seeing what the lab results show on that and what, if any, changes in the honey. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things.
That'd be a hard thing to regulate just to make sure the bees aren't pulling pollen off other flowers. Like I wonder if there's a way to like simulate it indoors with the bees where their only control is from the cannabis flowers itself rather than the
Yeah,
pollen. 'Cause that would be the true way to like really infuse that test, you know?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Um, maybe then one of the times you'll have to get someone
A
who
little
does bees
beekeeper
on
on here.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you and him and we'll do a little three-way little R&D. Yeah, that'd be sweet, man. So that's amazing. So RSO you're working with. Is there anything other? Because me, I mean, my favorite is obviously solventless, is hash, and not the live hash. This live rosin is really cool, but I'm really looking forward us to make the permanent change to like getting into the ritual of dried hashish and that. But that's for a whole nother thing. So besides
Yeah.
RSO, what have you dabbled in that you've really enjoyed or just had fun kind of messing with the alchemy of it?
Well,
Probably
uh,
all of it, but
yeah. Well,
the
I've done
BHO dialing that in has to be interesting.
right. So I've done stuff outside of cannabis as well. extracting and creating. So I've also dabbled into the psychedelic realm. And
Sweet.
so when I was younger, I was using different materials that you could back then get readily available even off of Amazon and making stuff like DMT and stuff like that.
Whoa. Yeah.
So yeah. So my interest is really just one, understanding the aspects of all these recreational and medical uh, products that we can now explore, especially today. Um,
100%.
I wouldn't mind also seeing how the benefit or where it goes on if we start mixing and blending and stuff like that. Food.
Yeah.
Again, I've pretty much infused everything you can imagine you can eat.
Oh yeah.
So that's another
Yep.
thing I love to cook, and I love to infuse it. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been leaning heavy on edibles lately, and it is nice to kind of throw a little meal out there that's fully infused that you would not necessarily consume, because it is sweet when it's a whole kind of culinary experience rather than just a brownie or a church, whatever we call them here in PA, these gummies that we have.
yeah.
So that's sweet, man. With smoking, is there anything that you've been really enjoying lately? So do you partake more in the extracts, or are you kind of old school flower man still?
I do it all. I am not against smoking flower or hash or BHO. I'm all about quality and experience.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I guess it's just I've smoked for so long. I don't smoke to get high anymore. I
Yep.
smoke to enjoy the experience. So like one of my favorite strains right now that are out there that I can find are like Super Boof. You
Super.
know,
And yeah. Yeah.
so it's just I can't get enough of the citrus from that. So anything really strong citrus flavored, I'm really big into. Anything that has that heavy GMO garlic, real savory
Yeah.
flavor, I'm into. But I don't just smoke anymore for the feeling. I really, if I'm going to pick up a flower or roll a joint or, make a donut or anything like that, I want it to just taste amazing all the way through the whole time.
Yeah.
That's really my, uh, you know, experience for smoking right now is just the enjoyment of it. Um, I don't think I have a favorite because I usually end up finding a way to do them all at the same time in one way or another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh,
No,
I,
definitely.
I did get some fresh press super boof from Michigan
Nice.
that hands down was probably some of the best rosin I've ever had.
Really.
So better than any
I've
BHO
yet to
I've ever had.
try Super Boof, so I'm excited to try to seek this
Oh
out.
man,
The
um,
boof.
I know. Again, I might get people mad at me, but I've smoked a lot of rosin from a lot of states. I have to give it to Michigan, man.
That's what I've
They
been
are
hearing.
kicking it. Their market is amazing. Everything that is coming out of there from some of these top, Wojo is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, they've made some amazing products coming out of there. So I'm always keeping an eye on the Michigan market, and luckily, as you said, it's another show for you, but we do have a treat here at Parea where we have someone that is really good at rosin and learned in the Michigan market. And hopefully, here as the company starts to get a little bit bigger, we'll be opening up our rosin and
Yeah.
we'll be going straight to top tier rosins. Um,
I
Super
hope.
wet, flavorful. Color's always going to be great.
So
So,
what's your take on live versus dry?
well, I am always live. I think that is going to be everyone's because I'm about experience, flavor. So, live rosin, live resin, it's going to taste so much better every time. The terpene profiles coming out of those, I enjoy. But if I'm wanting to get stuck on the couch, I can admit that I've had some cured rosins and some cured uh, resins that have stuck me to the couch and I can't even play video games anymore, kind of thing. It's like, I gotta put this down. I can't handle this right now. So, the next thing that I want to really explore more are blends. And I think that's where
Yeah.
the market's going to start going. One, because we are smaller grow, so a lot of our batches are very small. So whenever you saw our product going out, we'd only be able to make anywhere between 250 and 500 of that product at a time.
Yeah.
And if it was under a certain amount and we couldn't release it to them, then we would start to blend. And that's when you started seeing our cosmic fog and our graffiti highway and all the fun blends that we've been doing that everyone's really been loving lately. So
Yeah. Oh, that'll be cool. That'll be cool. Yeah, I've been dabbling more and more. I've always been an advocate for solventless, but I've been dabbling more and more and more in it because I faced, and maybe you have a take on this. So I faced when I first started the PA program here and opening up for the Terravita stores, I was dabbling heavy in our concentrates, and all our concentrates here were obviously the live resins, the crumbles and everything. And I don't know if there's any correlation, but through my working in the PA market in the beginning of it, I developed this thing that we now are calling CHS, right? This cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. And I don't know what triggers it or what causes it, but I've narrowed it down to high terpene extracts in my head is one of my theories. I have several of them. So what do you think, because we don't have a lot of studies on it, on these high terpene extracts and what these terpenes are actually going to do on a combustion level when we consume them. What do you think about all of that with terpenes, you being one that's working with them hands-on? Because there are more people that are coming out with stuff wrong with maybe their breathing and stuff after all these live rosins or these live resins. Um, any word on that on your end?
absolutely. I want to express first, everybody's an individual. We're all different. So whenever you're getting into trying a product, treat it as your first time. Like, I've had friends too that have smoked
As I
flower.
enjoy live rosin,
There you go.
just to yeah.
But so you have a lot of this, and and I can see this happening more often when you're at a friend's house or someone's at a friend's house and they're just doing dab after dab after dab, and especially if they're not used to it. So there's a lot of factors involved when you're doing this as well. You got to account for lack of oxygen, hyperventilation, as well as the activation of the terpenes and the cannabinoids. Um, so I would say it can happen. People have allergies to terpenes.
Yeah.
People have allergies to marijuana.
Yeah.
Some people don't even know they have them until they're next to a large amount of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I've seen come into this industry as trimmers, as processors, or growers, um, they all of a sudden realize they start getting hives, they start getting asthma because
Yep.
it could be the pollen, it could be just terpenes, any of one of those terpenes that are expelling from that plant while it's growing, if you have any sensitivity to it, can cause irritation to your lungs. So anybody that's going to try a new strain that they haven't tried before or try and jump into something that's going to be concentrated, small doses. You can
Yeah.
always take more. There's no reason just to jump in and just do a slab to your face right off the bat. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like doing
Yeah.
large dabs too,
All been
but
there.
you know, even if you're an experienced smoker, I have seen experienced smokers on a certain strain just go down, get
Yeah.
sick. We used to call it THC sickness, and
Yeah.
there was always new different names for it where they just start vomiting. It's like if the rest of us in the group just smoked the same thing, and this person's just for some reason having a really bad reaction to it.
Yep.
Um, because of the lack of testing, I just always, whenever you're out there trying something new or trying to um, any product, start small.
Yeah.
There's no harm in it. It's a good way to test it and get a flavorful try of it, just to see what it tastes like. Give your body a second to adjust. Um, Especially, I want to tell people who have used to smoke flower, quit for many years, and are trying to start again. There are new research going on that I've just looked into that it shows that your body does react differently than it used to. And you can get sick off of it. You can get lightheaded, you can get vertigo. So again, small doses, small amounts. I gave someone one of our carts. our carts are anywhere between 7 and 16% terpenes. We
Yeah.
try to always have the cleanest and highest terpene and more flavorful carts. Again, none of our terpenes come out of house. Everything we do in house. So if we want to increase the amount of terpenes in a product, then we have to take its library terpenes that we already have distilled from a previous harvest and
And
add those in, right? So um, we've had one or two people actually have bad reactions to the higher terpene carts. And I actually had to put out, a public statement to say that, listen, if you've never had a high terpene product, or if you've only ever smoked flower, you know, if you hit our cart, very small puff, hold it in for a light second, exhale. The smaller amount, holding it in for a little longer, will give you more of the experience of what's going to happen than just trying to chug it and blow it out instantly. So, um, yeah, I'm glad that you guys are looking into that. Do you have friends that are doing research on that now, or have?
so no, I know I try to stay involved with people on social media that have posted about it before. I mean, there's more studies coming out. There is a guy, I think he has a podcast, I think it's called Shaping Fire, and he recently in the last month made a YouTube segment with a doctor who's been studying in it highly, and they went through like 5 or 6 hypotheticals that may be causing it. Because here's the bottom line: is we don't know what's causing it, right? For us to sit here and label that cannabis is making us all sick, I think it's hard to put that stamp on it. I would even battle with my doctors going in from being sick, and they're trying to tell me it's from weed, and I'm looking at them like, "Well, why? Why is it from cannabis?" Like, and then they don't even know about an endocannabinoid system or our receptors or what's triggering the CHS and why, and I'm telling them this,
Mhm.
So now there's a patient versus a doctor, which I apologize to any of the doctors that may have dealt with me, um, because I'm very stubborn, especially with my family. I'm very stubborn with it because I don't believe it's just cannabis. And to put that stamp on it, I think is we're not paying the respect to the plant that we should, and
Mhm.
we need to dig in. And
Right.
so, like, that's like me. I mean, I first experienced this condition maybe in 2017. I've been hospitalized and stayed overnight multiple times for days on this thing where and now I'm consuming cannabinoids, where I know what I can look for, what not to look for. And I stay away from hydrocarbons. And I personally don't even want to do live resins. But
Mhm.
luckily, like the PA market, we finally have rosin. I just came back into it after years of being down south. Um, but something about I don't know. Maybe it's in my head. Maybe it's placebo, but something about the solventless to me is resonating better with my body. And like I don't even take flour in from anybody unless I'm like in your garden myself or like
So
trust
it's
you.
a, I
Even
understand
my
that.
hash, like I have to know the source that I'm dealing with,
Right.
and want to talk to you, and not saying that anything in the PA medical program is inferior because I consume a lot of standard farms right now, but I've talked to the people,
Mhm.
because I've dealt with other companies that I don't necessarily enjoy, and I've gotten answers from them that have led to me being like, okay, I don't like your practices, and I think it's going to
Uh,
go against what my body's going to want. Um, but like you emphasized at the beginning of this, every person is different,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know. So I'm hoping more studies come out. I mean, I talked to a couple people, Seth being a guy that I talked to the other day. And I'm going to stay more in the loop with him just because he has more connections with the in the doctor field of everything. But it's just too new. It's too new.
Absolutely. So,
And I hope as a whole, people don't just say cannabis is making everyone sick because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not.
because, well, so
Well, it is, but there's more to it.
no, and yes and no. You're exactly right. It is, but it isn't. Again, so think about all the other pharmaceuticals out there. They have to go through trials and
Hmm.
have a certain amount of people try them, and then fill out all this paperwork so that they know what side effects may vary, and that's maybe a 1 in a million chance or a one
Yeah.
in 100 chance. Cannabis is no different. So
No different.
everybody's unique. Our systems are all in our individuals. We're all susceptible to our own, you know, environments in a little bit different way. So, but we've never had a mass, you know, uh, questionnaire about what are your side effects for smoking marijuana.
Yeah.
So we could find that, you know, this person getting sick of it could be a 1 in 100 chance, or it could be a 1 in a million chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could definitely happen, but what is the likelihood for the mass population for this to really happen? Um, so definitely, I think that research should be made. Um,
Yeah.
so, and that's again stating back at, I think PA just needs to. I don't see why they have regulations against working with colleges. I
No.
can't see the harm in it.
No.
So if they could just back off those regulations, so they do allow you to work with college with a medical um, practice
University
or
behind them
medical,
or something behind them,
right?
right?
So
Yeah.
where they're actually doing medical teachings, but they won't let you work with pharmaceutical or like the local college. And I think at the same time that is kind of like a disservice to students, because those that are trying to, want to be in this field moving forward, and they have to start at a public school or at your local
Yeah.
college versus an university, they should have the right to learn or have the chance to research this on that level as much as they do. So,
Yeah. Well, I think anything that we're going to label medicinal, we should be able to open the doors on for studies and practicing. I think it's kind of weird that we're labeled this as medicinal and we put so much emphasis on it, but yet we're not allowing like private studies to be made and
right,
all these other things, which kind of is just like that makes no sense to me. I don't
right.
understand. Like that's quite backwards in my mind.
And so, you know how you said you're against hydrocarbons?
Yeah.
Um, the only reason I can extract cannabinoids and terpenes from flower with hydrocarbons is because they are hydrocarbons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they basically attach. One hydrocarbon is lighter and has a lighter evaporation temperature, being the butane or propane, and I heat it, that leaves. Ethanol, same thing. I heat it and that leaves. So the actual cannabinoids are hydrocarbons. That's the only reason hydrocarbon extraction works. So to
Yeah.
say that you are worried about hydrocarbons, there is a big spectrum of
Yeah.
hydrocarbons as well,
I
and
think
that includes the cannabinoids in your plant.
I think to funnel that statement down is more of the high terpenes that are reintroduced into it. Because from a
Mhm.
hydrocarbon, like if I took a label of like a live resin compared to a live rosin, the terpenes are going to vary within like probably what 5 to 6%.
Yes.
And I think my body something about that high terpene. So as a kid, I've narrowed down I had a sensitivity to pine. So pinene could definitely be a variant in this. And then my mom always claims that she would get sick off cannabis. So there could be something. And then that one scientist or doctor narrowed it down to CHS most likely is genetic. So I have three things in the loophole that are going against me when it comes to terpenes.
Gotcha.
Um, and again, it comes to like, I don't know. I'm literally just me sitting there with like what I can either try to find from my friends that are cultivating or the program. And I just been going through like a list of my head of like what's in these, what's the terpene ratio in this. Okay, how do I feel? Like, and not just like how do I feel as in being stoned, but how does my body feel? Do I feel any type of like weirdness lying there? And it's just a trial and error that everyone has to go through with this plant, because I truly believe in it. And I don't think I could be 100% myself without cannabis or the
Mhm.
cannabinoids that come from cannabis. So, ah,
So,
who knows?
so as a patient, since you said that, uh, what would your thoughts be if, let's say, like us as a grow reached out to our dispensaries and gave you a questionnaire and said, "How does this product work for you? We're trying to research, we're trying to better the product for you." As a patient, would you be open to, let's say, like, if we gave you a questionnaire and you were able to just general information, no private information. Just give us a breakdown of your experiences,
Yeah.
and if it works, if it doesn't work, what maybe side effects you are having, and then we would build a database that you would continue to do that. And then, like you're saying, you have uh, a little bit of a reaction with pining. We'd be able to track those products that you're using at that time and how your reactions are. And then we would also be able to use that to identify the other strains or the other products that are high in other cannabinoids or terpenes that you're having the same reaction to, and then help you drive your choices for your uses later
Oh, oh, it's
down the line.
genius. That's so cool. And the fact that you're saying that, have you heard of the app that's going around PA, specifically for PA, called Waddle? So it's the
Yeah.
Waddle Journal app. Yeah,
And they've reached
so
out to us as well. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a really good buddy of mine. And he's been really dialing this down and he loves his data and we started in the retail space together when PA first came on market. So he's someone that's been in it and it's been listening to patients and consumers for years and he really cares. And I think having the ability to track your medicine with the way that he's given through the app is doing sorts just like that. So you're able to kind of and it goes with the community. So everyone's ranking it with the community as well. And I know he wants to tie in something where it's like if you enjoy these certain terpenes or these cannabinoid ratios, it's going to suggest that and
Hmm.
find products that are recommended for you if because in PA we have this problem, say that strain was working so well, but you don't have it, or it's in the cultivation cycle where it's waiting to come down, it's going to be able to kind of help you find that solution. So he's trying to work with more brands where he has the momentum starting with the DOH and everything. Obviously, in PA there are some hurdles.
Right.
Um, but I would love to get you guys more connected if that's definitely a route that you guys are thinking about as well. You
Well,
know,
he's actually worked out with us. Uh, Unfortunately, because of other reasons in the company, we weren't able to work with him at the moment. But moving
yeah,
forward, I hope to, because talking with him, I love his transparency.
yeah,
That's
man,
what we are fighting in Parea, is that every single company shows transparency on every product, every flower, every concentrate. I think
yep,
the customer should know how many parts per million of everything that are in there. Uh, every patient here should also understand that PA has some of the highest allowed limits of solvents left, be it
yeah,
ethanol or butane or propane. The other states that came back were from either they require it to be non-detectable or below 800 parts per million. The state is like 5,000 parts per million, you're good, you can send it out to the
yeah,
customer. So out there on your product and on your shelves right now, you could possibly be getting something that if you put a lighter to it, it's just going to start sparkling like those little candles you
yep,
used to get on the birthday candle, you know what I
oh
mean? So
yeah, yeah,
uh,
or from our open blasting days, you know.
yeah, yeah, the the lighter test, if it sparkles, that's what we got to go a little bit longer. Yep.
Little bit longer, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, no, the transparency is his biggest focus. It's my biggest focus, and another reason behind Terp Trends is to give more knowledge and information out there to these patients. Of one, who's behind it? Not necessarily the grow itself, but who are these people behind these grows? What are they doing? What hands do they have? And I think it's really cool in this industry when it comes to the medicinal side is you are able to learn from the people that are curating your medicine,
Mhm.
like being able to have Patrick on and talk to Patrick about where Pareas grow or how they're growing, where this medicine's coming from, and then being able to go full circle to now how are we extracting this flower? I think for anybody that's a big consumer of Parea, that's super cool for them to listen to that. Now they're hearing stories of their strains. Not only that, listening to the director of the lab that it's going through and how am I getting this medicine? And like that's what we need in this industry all around.
And I want to tell everyone that's a patient and listening again, um, my email is available, my number's available. I welcome patients to call me with questions. I don't care if I get 100 calls in a night. I actually look forward to it. If you're curious and want to talk about cannabis and you want to know more about the product that you're using, or maybe there's a product out there that you've never used before and you're just curious,
Yeah.
reach out. If there's any questions you have about our products, like I've had tons of people that have had issues with us using O2 vapes for our carts. There's a specific reason we went with full ceramic carts.
Is that the
First,
hardware you're talking about? The hardware of your carts?
the
Yeah.
hardware, yep.
Okay.
So, a lot of people don't like it because it's a little fatter. It
Yeah.
doesn't really fit into drop-ins, but the reason for that is it's a truly fully ceramic wrapped coil. So you have no metal touching your product at all. The ceramic in these carts is a high quality ceramic, so it doesn't dust off like some of the lower quality
Yeah.
ceramics you'll see on the market. And then on top of that, the FDA and um, the DEA and a lot of people after 2019 and that big vape scare have gone through this witch hunt of what caused people to get sick in vapes.
Yeah.
Um, PA is still very afraid of it. We saw this with the terpene craze of calling back all the real carts made with real terps and non-cannabis based terpenes. So we know that fear is still out there.
Wait.
But
Wait. PA had a recall of cartridges?
yeah. So when I first started here, PA
So this is
found out.
probably after I left.
Maybe. I'm not sure
Yeah.
your time spirit. But what happened was that on the market, there was a lot of the real terps. So you can get the candy flavored carts, right? The
Yeah.
stuff that you know it wasn't cannabis flavored.
When you say real terps, you mean like botanical derived terpenes or something like that?
Yeah, real terps is like an actual company,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
definitely make
Oh, okay. Okay.
they're
Okay.
so they're more botanical and fruit derived, right?
Yes.
So
And that's where they're sourcing it from, you're saying.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Okay.
and yes and no, terpenes are terpenes,
Yes.
but for PA standard, they didn't like the fact that they didn't come from cannabis and they were adding them back into cannabis. So they
Yeah.
literally made people pull them off the shelves and like put a list out of these are the cannabis terpenes that you cannot use. You can't put this much in there due to the FDA, and there was a big back and forth with that because the FDA does not regulate the terpenes
Yeah.
we inhale, only the
No.
ones we imbibe. So they were using a regulation that didn't fit the the situation. So luckily we got that figured out. But
I think there's a whole case study that went to courts on the FDA and terpenes as well that I think
right,
I watched or studied on and was just
yeah,
like, wow. The
yeah. So
outdatedness or just the levels of the consumption of the terpenes, I think we're still a little. But I mean, I think it's cool that they did that because I
mhm,
think anything that's using a non-cannabis derived terpene is just an automatic X in my head.
right, right. But so I wouldn't X out non-cannabis derived terpenes just because of that. I would X them because of how they were processed and what they used to reintroduce them back.
I got
So,
you.
because like a lot of companies out there will add other things to their terpenes to make them stabilize longer on the shelf, stuff like that. Um, you can definitely get cannabis-based derived terpenes from amazing companies like Terp Belt Farms and stuff that have taken the time to genetically uh, alter cannabis plants to not have enough THC so they can be registered again as hemp plants, but still have all the characteristics of that cannabis plant to try and get those terpenes from and sell them across the nation. So
Mm.
you can definitely find them out there. Um, but the the biggest thing was is that for PA to automatically assume that all terpenes that came from fruits are bad and everything like this that you can't inhale, uh, that that was just their mistake. But they're not mistaken on in what the rules coming down here by the federal government and the FDA and a lot of these people that do regulate the carts, and it's going to start against the tobacco industry, is that any open metal carts that you use, regardless of the situation, are going to expose you to heavy metals.
Yeah.
There's actually, oh, I wish I had the name. There's a lab company that works with that's online that's doing these testing on vape carts that are a cannabis directly related company that are
Yeah.
doing this too. And so there's other people that'll say no. Uh, the vape coil won't show, but so
Mm.
when we send here, so just so the patients understand how this works, yes, we have to test our carts in PA, but when we send our cart into the lab to be tested, it is an unused cart. So even when we send our oil in that cart to be tested, it is an unused cart. So what they do is they'll open the cart and they'll pull it out, they'll dump it out, and then they'll test the cart and test it. As soon as you burn that coil, that's when you start having gas off happen. So at any point that coil does not have uh, an efficient amount of oil
Yeah. Well,
over the
essentially,
metal
the
coil,
what is it, like the
the
cotton that's around the coil
yeah,
in the
it's more like
cart,
a
you
yeah,
know,
it's
like a
more like a
lining of
fiberglass
some
too.
sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like soaks the oil up to then go against the atomizer, it would be.
Right. So people are dry pulling a lot of these carts trying to get the last of the oil out, but they start saying, "Why does this taste like a metal spoon?" It's because
Yeah.
you're inhaling
There's
heavy
no
metals,
oil. Yeah,
right?
100%. Oh yeah.
So pretty soon we're going to see across the board that the entire market's going to be forced to get rid of open metal. So we just try to jump
Be
ahead of
ahead
the
of that.
train and get that.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of them on the market that are really good. I've researched a lot of different companies, and their ceramics and O2 vape were the only ones that tested when we did the test ourselves, exactly the same as the test they sent us. So the
Oh, that's
biggest
pretty
thing you're
cool.
finding in these other carts is that, yeah, they'll have a ceramic wrapped coil, but one, what is that ceramic made of, and what is the quality? Because some of these carts, it'll be so loose of a ceramic that as soon as you start heating it, it'll start to break down, and it'll
Yeah.
carry off in the oil as you're in. So you'll start getting the risk of silicosis from in, you know, these are things you don't want to even risk a patient. So we went above and beyond to find carts that, yes, they're a little bit problem because they don't fit in your drop in. They take a little bit more power to heat up that uh, inner heating chamber to get
Yeah.
through that. But now you're getting the experience of like your Puffco there, ceramic
Yeah.
insides, the same thing as anything else, or even close to having a glass rig.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to knuckle down the technology for the carts. I mean, we've come a long way from where it started, but even like the testing of the heavy metals, you can go into the heating element. You could even go into what quality of the glass are they using? Are they using glass outside of it to hold the canister? What
If
heavy
they're
metals are used to do the glass if they're even using
right,
glass? So
and
there's so many things on a cart level that I could
you're
dig
gonna
into.
You're gonna love this. There's research showing that some of these high temperature and high tensile plastics that they're putting on the outside of the carts
Oh,
because of the terpenes and the risk of having butane still in them, the plastic's still a hydrocarbon, so they're leaching
just
into your
delete it.
cart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's battles not okay, so this is a stretch. This is a tangent, but not outside of carts, there's battles with pressing between these nylon bags and the stainless steel bags, and there's people that claim that the nylon leaches into your rosin when you're pressing. So there's always going to be a battle of quality, But carts is one thing I always battle. They are so convenient, but man, I think they are probably one of the worst things besides having to break a torch out to take a dab, um, in my eyes, for cannabis. They're
Yeah.
so cool and so convenient, and man, I do indulge in them when I'm in a tight spot. I've transitioned to the pivot, the Puffco pivot, the little pen. I don't know,
Yeah.
mine's up here, which is great, but something about the carts really turned me off, but I think it's good that they're going to get heavier on that because I do think the medical grade ceramics that you can get, um, again, have the science out there to stand the
And
integrity of that heat as well.
and they change the quality of your experience.
Yeah,
I mean, you've hit plenty of carts, so you know that hitting that cart or going and doing a dab of some sugar is never the same. But when you
no,
can hit a cart and it tastes the same as a dab,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, it's
and
fantastic.
the cool thing is as you move across the country, you'll see a lot of your rosins and live rosins and carts are
Yeah,
going into O2 vapes.
yep.
So the rosin industry is already jumped on the
I'm glad you
O2.
said that because I did want to say that a lot of the rosin vapes that I have gotten already have been in ceramic.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
And that's better for you guys because you can taste the rosin. It just tastes so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any plan to get into the solventless?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we do. My manager, Chris Davila, he started his experience in Michigan. I started working with him at Ingrown Farms. He was underneath me. I trained him on BHO extraction, and he's trained me on uh, water solventless extraction. So
Sweet.
it's just one of those things where when you really get into these rabbit holes
Hmm.
and you try to jump ship, you can be good at both of them, but it's hard to perfect both of them.
Yeah.
And especially
Yeah.
when you want to keep going down that rabbit hole with R&D. So we have an amazing group here at Parea where we have the benefit of someone that knows and has made high quality hash, as well as with my experience on the BHO side, so we can give everybody the aspect of every quality product they want, be it you want rosin edibles and you want that real hashy taste, you want
Yeah.
distillate, which I don't think anybody does, but if you want hot dog water, we can do that for you
It's
too.
it's
Uh,
still the highest grossing cannabinoid
product.
product on the market.
I
No
know.
matter what, it'll be there forever.
I know. I can't do distillate. I mean, I can
No.
if I'm using it to cook, but even distillate burn
Yeah.
on food, I don't know.
Yeah. 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 I'm there with you, but I understand the commodity around it
Right.
and the crutch it gives people, or like to build on at least, you know. Because a
Yeah.
lot of things are just built off distillate if we had to think about it. At least black market brands and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for you and your experience, if you don't mind me asking you a question,
Yeah.
what are you wanting to find in this? I know you're saying water hash, but what specific kind of product or new wave would you like to see? Like, especially in PA, since we're starting out fresh here, we're still behind the times everywhere else. What do you want to see next in PA?
Oh, um, so I really enjoy hearing. I've yet to experience the new RSO, but I love hearing that medicinal. So having that and just the advancements of that, I would love to see, and I love hearing that you're doing. So that would definitely be one of them. Um, Patches. I think it'd be really cool if we got patches dialed in. I think they benefit a lot of individuals. At least from my feedback when I experienced recommending patches in different markets, it's really convenient. So I
Which
think that would
patches?
do.
Do you want
So
like
I use Mary
subdermal or
yeah, subdermal patches. So I've used like Mary's Medicinals had a really good one in Colorado.
yeah.
I know Cresco was trying in PA when they first started. They didn't have it all figured out yet, but they were working well for people.
Mhm.
I don't know if we have much more on the market. Again, I've been out of it for a while. But I would like to see that more spread out.
So if you like the Marys, I don't think GTI does Marys anymore. I remember how to make them, so they're not that
Yeah,
hard to make. So
yeah.
um,
We
definitely.
sold them, man. Like in Colorado, they would fly. And I think even in PA when we had the patches, I mean, I was right in the front lines in the retail space, and they were going pretty quick. And I'd recommend them all the time
So
when
what do you?
when they worked right.
So what happened there? Did who was making them when you were getting them before? Do they not make them now?
I'm not sure. I believe it was. I want to say it was Cresco, but don't quote me on that. I mean, this is when the program first started. I left maybe in 2018.
Yeah.
So right when it was really just on its pinnacle of like getting momentum. Um, I kind of popped out and started with the whole hemp consulting. But yeah, I don't know where they went or why they pulled them. I don't think that they had the tech yet behind it for like even distribution and everything like that. And time release is obviously a big thing when you're dealing with the patches because a lot of people were using them for time release. Um, and me on my own level, I love different levels of full melt, so I'd love a really good variety of different full melts.
Oh
I
yeah.
think people we have this big hype wave of rosin, which I don't understand on why we went. I understand on the hype aspect on why everyone went to live rosin. I think the West Coast did that and it transferred over here. And I'm not saying it's an inferior product. It's beautiful. I love it. But like I said earlier, I think there's a different attachment when it comes to like dried flower and like real hashish. And I
Mhm.
think as a cannabis consumer, I have just a more of a connection to that type of product, especially with what my body deals with when it comes to the terpene theory that I have. So I would love to see like, some mini temple balls or just different levels of maybe some different sift levels, just to make it more financially accommodable for everybody. Because the yields aren't going to be there, so it's going to be hard to get your financial drawback on it. That's why we don't have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love that. I would love to be able to walk in and get like a good full melt for a decent price, or if not, just like a nice bubble hash. If it's not 6 star, I mean, I'd settle for 4 or 5, but people should be able to experience that. I don't think a lot of people have tried real dry traditional hashish.
So have you
Um,
found anything like that in PA yet? Does
In the market, like the legal market, no. No, I have there's people that definitely do it. And I reach out to the hash makers that are maybe doing rosin and I'm like, "Hey man, what do you dry? Like, do you ever just do melt? Like, do you ever just have like pure trichomes that aren't disturbed yet? Like, why do you have to squish them? Like, I don't want them
yeah.
squished yet. I want them just undisturbed, in their natural form." And so yeah, that's what I would like.
Huh. I wonder if 710 might have some of that for you. So they have usually some pretty good format.
Yeah, no, they did good water hash and everything. So you can find it, but it's not in the PA yet.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you do
Okay.
find it in a different market, I mean the prices for it are insane. And there's something about it, like even if something's over $50 a gram, it just burns my soul. Or I don't
Uh,
think that should be a thing.
yeah.
But I understand why. That's it. Like I get why it is. So I wish we could try to figure out on how to change that. But until I don't know, there's a whole thing behind it. I could
Yep.
go on for days about it, but um, I think that's the biggest drawback in the cannabis community is the financial burden that we all face to consume it.
Well, I'm seeing a drawback to older styles of hash making and cannabis making a lot more, anyways.
Yeah.
There's an older crowd coming into this market that used to only do black market. They're finally getting a hold of their cards. You have older crowds coming in and like, hey, can you guys find the original Acapulco Gold? And it's like, of course, it's like, no, but we'll
Yeah.
try. But so,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've had older folks come in and literally ask for, I remember that Afghani hash. Is there any way you can make the old pressed hash, the old green hash I used to get? And
Yeah.
if there is enough of a market for it for the sales to work, I'd be more than happy to give it a go. Um,
Like I think we can. I think we have better genetics and we have better yielding plants that are producing this oil and this resin way more refined than we did back in the day. So if we can channel that more, it'll bring the cost down if we can cultivate more of it for
yeah.
the price we have to put into it.
Yeah, hopefully if the regulations go, we can make it how it was originally made too. Have you ever actually had real Afghani hash?
No.
All right. The last
Not
time I
not
had
to
this
my
was
not to my real knowledge, but I would bless me.
so bless my hippie parents for giving me this opportunity, right? So
Yeah.
I've had it before, and it is crazy because they don't just do the pressed hash. They'll actually take the strands from opium after they've bled that out and used it. And what they're going to
Wow.
do, they break down the pods and pull those strands out, and then they'll lay it down in the hash and fold it, lay it down, fold it. So, and it is a whole nother experience, man.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's just
yeah.
like you want pain relief, you want calming, you want no
Yeah.
anxiety. The stuff, I miss it.
Yeah.
I salivate just thinking about it.
That would be that right there. It would be my number one, something that I would want. Because I don't, like you said, I don't really smoke anymore. Don't get me wrong. I definitely consume cannabis for the medicinal values that it provides me individually, right? But beyond that, as I was an adolescent, I'm sure many of us were, I don't necessarily consume cannabis to just get annihilatedly stoned anymore. In fact, I don't even like having to take multiple hits. I would like to indulge in something that would be potent enough and tasty enough in my eyes, clean enough to just take a couple nice hits of what like that Afghani experience sounds like
Mhm.
to give me that type of not numbness I want to per se, but to slow down. Like there's only certain strains that make me slow down in my head. And that's why I constantly am consuming like heavier indica strains as we're labeling them, you know, for that effect. Because I don't agree with anything else pharmaceutically that could provide that effect to me. Um, Cannabis is the only thing natural so far that I've experienced that make me have that of being like sweet. I feel good,
Mhm.
you know, to go on every day and not feel like
Yeah. And
so that
still
would
be
be
functional.
beautiful and be
Right.
functional. A normal feel like I'm a normal person contributing in a good way every single day to people around me, you know, because we all
Absolutely.
have our days, but I feel like you feel better when you're contributing positively around yourself. I did not know that that hash was tied in with opium.
Oh, yeah, not all of it, but so cool story. One of his friends, his name is Hippie. Literally, his name was Hippie.
Sick.
So he was cleaning out his parents' house, and there he used to live in a kid, and he was cleaning out their attic, and apparently there was a loose floorboard. He slipped down there, and I guess it was a storage spot for when he was a teenager, because when he pulled his leg back out, he pulled out an old burlap sack with a full brick and the stamp still on it.
Oh, snap. You know it's legit if the stamp's on it.
Oh yeah, so and okay,
Yeah.
this stuff's like 30 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. You had to
No.
do the hot knife trick to cut through it, and I mean, and you could see the little white strands. I mean, oh, dude, the flavor. So I mean, you love that hash flavor, but then you end up
Yes.
with that nice opium flavor mixed in there. It was
Interesting.
definitely an experience.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was back in the days where it was still hash under glass. We didn't have, all the nice little
Yeah.
pipes and stuff to smoke
Yeah.
hash with. So you put it on a little tin or something and put it on the glass and
Yep.
hit it.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. A little straw with a glass over it on a little thumbnail or something. There's actually a company now that they came out with their new like a new device just for that.
Oh,
So
cool.
they did some R&D and now you can actually buy like a legit cupped smoker, I guess would be the best
Oh,
way
that's cool. Good thinking
to
though. That's fun.
yeah, yeah, that's sweet. So that would be, I don't know. Hopefully the program is so premature still.
Mhm.
And that's why I want to pay homage to everyone who's in it to get it to where it is because man, has it come so far from where it started, at least from when I started with it. It's just so cool to see the cannabinoids that we have on market and the different medicines that we have on market, and the people behind it, you know.
Mhm.
So thank you, man. Really.
Oh, and just on a like last kind of thing to say too. It's the people here in PA. The majority of them don't even know what's to come.
Yeah.
So they already see all of this that's here, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" But when this opens up and the recreational hits, the people that haven't experienced it in other states, their minds are going to be blown on what's going to be available to them.
Yeah, yeah, and I really hope it opens the doors up for some of these growers that are operating to come more to light to give other people more selection as
Yeah.
well. Because the cannabinoids shouldn't be held to just the doors that they're held to now. You know,
Mm,
you should have more access to them personally. Not just cannabinoids, but right now we're just going to concentrate on cannabinoids.
hmm
You know, and a
Right.
medicinal value. It's a community thing, I believe.
Oh, well, it's always been a community thing. I mean, smoking pot's always been a social event.
Yep.
Nobody wants to smoke alone. And if you are smoking it alone, you're always usually just do it, get it done, and go back to what you're doing, you
Yep.
know. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's why this new generation has come up with the generation, might be your generation, I don't know your age, but maybe even a little younger, are doing these hash events. I mean, you
Yeah.
have Ego Clash, you have all these different huge events going on where it's all young people mixed with old people just having the time of their life enjoying this product. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's worldwide. There's a past guest that I had on and he hit this quote. He says cannabis has no face, you know. Um and personally the relationships that I've made over a random passing of a joint, um there's nothing like it. It's such a bonding of a community over this one plant. I mean, just you and I talking right now. We've never met each other. I've just talked to other people about weed, and
Mhm.
you enjoy cannabis, and here we are talking about it. You know, so which we wouldn't do if it wasn't for cannabis. So I think it's magical what this plant's going to hold for this whole society.
It's absolutely magical, and I really look forward to seeing how it better helps patients further moving on when we start really truly understanding what it's capable of.
Yeah. Yeah, we're excited to have you behind it, brother. That's what I'm talking about. Well, dude, we ran way over an hour, but
Cool.
I didn't want to stop. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm excited to have you on in the future once we figure out what's going on down the pipeline, fingers crossed. And
Absolutely.
all positive your way, all positivity your way, and thank you for being on tonight, dude.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'll keep you guys always informed on any new products or research that we come up with.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm stoked about.